There is an alleged criminal investigation going on with Bang PD, allegedly, putting BTS in jeopardy. We have some crazy situations happening with JHope and him getting emotional, and then we have Jin talking about the end of his show and him getting emotional over that. Say Dumplings, is Dave Disci. Let's get into it. People were freaking out after it was the last episode of Run Jin, and during the last episode it seemed like Jin was getting a little bit emotional talking about his journey throughout the episodes and how much work he has put into making the show happen. I feel both sad and happy. Sad obviously since it's ending, but happy that since it's ending it means that Run BTS likely might pick back up again and likely we'll see more of all the boys together, not just Jin. During the last moment, Jin was shown a video from the staff of JHope. The video was JHope talking to Jin and to the audience about how much effort Jin puts into these shows, and also talking about how Jin often puts the community before himself, so thinking of what the community is going to like before he even considers the strain that it's going to have on himself. Of course, this isn't even something that he needs to say because we definitely can all see that and know that already, that he puts a lot of effort into satisfying what the community wants. I can imagine Jin going right into Run Jin from the military was something that was very stressful, but he knew that it was something that maybe the community was going to want to see. The show has been proven to be wildly successful and even got the likes of Tom Cruise and his team's attention, so clearly the show has made such a huge splash, not only in the Korean market, but in the Western one as well. Initially, when JHope made that video for Jin and talking to the audience, Jin was just joking around and kind of making fun of the situation, making it light. He obviously knows that a lot of people are going to be really emotional about this one, the crew even, but also, of course, the community. But you can tell that Jin was actually really emotional. A lot of people think that he was likely cheering up and getting really emotional about this because he really enjoyed doing the show. You have to also really understand that Jin never intended to be a pop star. But of course, when that opportunity arises, is anyone really going to say no to a lot of fame and success? He opted to do that. It is something that I assume he does enjoy to a certain degree, but acting was always something that he wanted to do, and likely part of that was filming and being on set. So this is one way that he could exercise that muscle, if you will, and have a camera crew follow him around and be someone who has their own show and gets to host it. This must have been such an exciting opportunity for him, and I'm sure he really loved it. And of course, I would love personally to see him in a show and do that show in coming months or years. I think he'll still have the opportunity to do that even when he's with BTS though. So while I believe he was saying that it's going to be over, it doesn't entirely mean that we won't see this format again and that he might not choose to have his own show again sometime in the future. I wouldn't be surprised if the label started reviewing the numbers after a little while and realized that having all of the individual members maybe do a Run blank member would actually bring a lot more ratings than just Run BTS, and then they would opt to do something like that. But what we've actually gotten to see Jin is a little bit more emotional. We got to see JHope get a little bit emotional as well. Allegedly during a stream, JHope was asked what his condition is with his dog. And if you're unaware, JHope and his sister Ji will have a dog named Mickey. Now the dog lives with his sister, but I think they both kind of take care of him. The dog was reported to not be in great condition and has, I believe, officially lost his eyesight. It was confirmed that Mickey has had some lung issues and found it difficult to breathe. JHope then said that he just hopes that Mickey isn't suffering. Like if he's going to pass away, I assume that JHope would want him to pass away peacefully. Now JHope said this pretty calmly and without much reaction, but you can definitely hear in his voice he was getting emotional. I mean, how could you not over something like this? This was interesting because I think a lot of people weren't even sure that JHope had a dog named Mickey. And for a lot of people, this came out of the blue. This, alongside pretty much every story in this video, was something that I had to dig to read about. It wasn't even something that just popped up on my feed or was even being discussed within the community. So I definitely thought it was interesting. I have no doubt that both JHope and his sister are putting in as much money and time and energy into making sure their dog is well, but when the dog gets to a certain age, their life essentially starts to deteriorate, and this is why dogs have to be put down at a certain point, because you want them to stop suffering. So I can imagine that this is very emotional. I hope nothing happens anytime soon because I don't want him to go into a reunion or anything like that feeling really emotional. Not that there's really ever a good time for anything like this to happen, but it would come at a really horrible time if it was during the comeback, I think. Not even just for the community as they start to get really sad about it, but I think it's going to be a horrible time for JHope as well, and he's not going to be able to focus. Now, the important thing here is that Mickey isn't suffering, so if he's still doing well and feeling okay, then there would be no reason to put him down or do anything drastic like that. As of right now, I think he is doing as best as he can. JHope obviously said that his health isn't great, but that doesn't mean that he is suffering a lot. He could not feel very much, and of course, what is really depressing about animals and dogs being in pain is that you can't really ask them where it hurts, or you can't really ask them how they're feeling on the day-to-day, because if you know that, then you can obviously bring them to the hospital before things get worse. But sometimes you only know when things have gotten really worse, because animals try to hide it. They don't want their owners to know that they're in pain. So I'll keep you updated on this situation and how it develops, or if it develops and what happens. But of course, this is really a sad one, and I don't really have a positive spin on this to give. But we're kind of progressing into more and more shocking news, and this one is really shocking. So it was believed that the Financial Supervisory Service had launched a criminal investigation into Bang PD. I'm going to say alleged and allegedly a lot here because I don't fully know if this is true, and I couldn't find actual evidence to prove 100% what is going on. The investigation currently is still ongoing, and details may or may not be public yet if this is going to court. I'm not really going to give my opinions on this situation other than the fact that I think it's shocking, because there is a lot of issues here at play that either haven't been confirmed yet fully or aren't widely known. So it started allegedly with the label making plans to go public on the stock market. So this is them putting their label on the stock market, and before they put the label on the stock market, they obviously had investors already. So a lot of investors put their money into the company to try to grow it, and Bang allegedly told them that the label had no intention of going public immediately. And typically a lot of investors want a company to go public. If the company says that they eventually have plans to go public, an investor will typically opt to put more money into the label, because that means that when the label goes public, everyone's going to make a lot more money. Because once the everyday person has access to buy parts of the label, like when it goes public, all of those shares that are sold to the public, and that money will be divided among the original investors. So investors want this. They're waiting for this, right? And so if Bang allegedly told them that there is no immediate plan to go public, naturally the investors are probably going to want to sell their shares because they're feeling like it's not going to happen anytime soon. They're going to try to make their money back and then put their money somewhere else where they feel like they're going to be able to triple their money or make more. So allegedly a lot of those people ended up selling their stocks, and then the label immediately went public right after. And of course, it was alleged that around that time the investors were considering to sell their shares, and they allegedly asked Bang if they were going to go public. Bang allegedly said no, right? But was actively allegedly starting the steps to go public. Bang allegedly made $290 million from the sale of those shares that the investors sold, thinking the label wasn't going to go public. So this was from those people. So this is illegal. Now, allegedly, the FSS is actively looking into this right now. But if this ends up being true, what are the charges that we can start to see Bang carry? Pretty severe. We're talking about an alleged imprisonment of several years, or according to the South Korean Financial Investment Services and Capital Markets Act, double the amount of profit that Bang made unfairly to be fined to him. This is the max punishment. So allegedly, around $600 million in fines. I mean, I don't even know how much money the label is worth, but that would be so much money. It wouldn't immediately bankrupt the label, but it would definitely likely cause a huge strain, to put it lightly. They would have to either borrow a lot of money from the bank to pay this off, or potentially sell off their assets, which could result in huge bad situations for the label and the artist. So this has led a lot of people to believe that BTS and their reunion might be in question right now. I don't know what to say, but obviously if the label goes under or has a huge financial strain, then there are questions about any group debuting or anything like that, right? So let's see how this unfolds. Obviously, BTS can just go to a different label if that were the case, but I'm very curious to know how this unfolds. Let me know what you think. Make sure to check out Patreon for more videos, linked down below. Thank you to this lovely comment right here. Love you, bye.